Why it sucks to be born as an archer. In medieval times, have you ever stopped while playing a thrilling game of tag and wondered, my goodness, I'm glad I wasn't born a medieval archer? Of course you have, we all have, and if you haven't, well, stop pretending and read the first comment. The brutal truth is being born an archer back then absolutely sucked. And here's why. No, 1. You're the Wi-Fi of the battlefield.
Yeah.
Let's face it, we archers weren't exactly the life of the party. See, we had this little thing called a longbow, which was great because it meant we didn't have to get up close and personal with our enemies. You know, like those knights who were all, "Hark, let me thrust my sword into thy bosom," while we were over here going, "Nah, I'll just shoot him from over yonder hill." Sure, it took some practice to master the art of shooting an arrow straight, but we were kind of like the original snipers, stealthy and deadly from afar. And yet, while we were busy taking pot shots at distant enemy formations, we got the distinct feeling that the knights behind us were giving us the stink face. You see, being an archer meant having the worst view in the house. Knights charged into battle with their swords flashing in the sunlight, looking like the stars in the sky, while we archers stood behind them, shivering in the cold and watching through a telescope. Don't get us wrong, we loved the view, but it was hard to feel appreciated when all you heard were shouts of, "For king and country," while you were trying to focus on the tiny bull's eye on the other team's banner. It's hard to stay motivated when you're just there for the scenery. So if you ever found yourself part of an archer crew in medieval times, you already lost. Sorry, but the only thing worse than being an archer was being born a peasant. For more reasons why peasants are the true losers of history, check out our series, Why It Sucks to Be a. Now, some people might look at being an archer in medieval times and say, hey, those guys had it easy, but let us explain why that's about as dumb as trying to catch an arrow with your bare hands. First off, let's talk about what we archers ate. Yeah, not exactly something you want to spend too much time pondering, but trust us, it's important. We were kind of like the Wi-Fi of medieval times, always hanging out on the sidelines, never really getting our hands dirty. And if you're wondering how dirty those nights got, well, let's just say they smelled worse than a gym bag after a week of dodgeball camp. But being on the sidelines has its downsides, especially when it comes to food. While those beefy boys in shining armor were chowing down on roasted boar and drinking flagons of mead, we archers were stuck with whatever was left over. You know, stale bread, mysterious meat pies, and questionable fruit. At least we had carrots. Well, not exactly the gourmet stuff, but hey, better than turnips. But we weren't just eating weird food, we were also packing weird food. Archers carried around these things called arrow quivers, basically a tube filled with sharp wooden shafts that we launched at unsuspecting peasants. Quivers were usually made of leather and attached to our backs, holding up to a dozen arrows each. But the weight of these quivers wasn't just annoying, it was dangerous. If you were an archer in medieval times, you were essentially playing a game of hungry hippos. Every time we took an arrow out of our quiver to fire it, we were hoping the next arrow wouldn't fly out too, and then stick someone in the eye. But if you thought a broken nose was bad, wait till you heard what happened to our feet. No, 3 aching feet. Yes, being an archer in medieval times was like being a contestant on a reality TV show. We were trapped in a race against time, and we were constantly exhausted. The life of an archer was full of early mornings and late nights. We spent hours upon hours practicing our aim in the hopes of hitting the bullseye. And when we weren't practicing, we were marching. Yes, believe it or not, we archers weren't just stuck in one place. We traveled all over the kingdom, following the king's army wherever they went. And let us tell you, walking all day with a heavy quiver of arrows strapped to your back was not fun, then there were the battles. We archers were always stationed on the front lines, and that meant we were under attack almost all the time. We had to stand for hours on end, firing arrow after arrow until our arms were aching and our feet were bleeding. And if we got bored of that, we could always go for a swim. Wait, what? How? See, when you're an archer in medieval times, you don't always get to choose where you stand. Sometimes you're stuck behind a river or a marsh, and that means it's up to you to wade in and take the shot. But it wasn't just the water that was freezing. Our feet were soaked all the time, and let us tell you, there is nothing worse than trying to shoot an arrow when your toes feel like they're about to fall off. And don't even get us started on the mud. When the ground gets wet, it becomes a thick, sticky mess that clings to your boots and weighs you down. Trying to move in that was like trying to walk through peanut butter, except the peanut butter was cold, covered in dead animals, and determined to make your feet bleed. And don't forget the rain. We archers were always out in the elements, and that meant we got soaked to the bone on a regular basis. You know, we archers had dreams too. We wanted to be valiant heroes, not soggy messes standing in a field. No, if you were an archer in medieval times, you didn't get to enjoy the sweet release of death. You were stuck on Earth dealing with the same problems as everyone else, like smelly feet. Number 4, you get 0 credit. Okay, so you may think that being an archer in medieval times would be pretty exciting, like you get to shoot people with pointy sticks. But the reality was more like sitting in a cubicle than storming a castle. For starters, we didn't get to wear fancy armor like the knights did. Oh no, we were stuck in these itchy, uncomfortable clothes that made us look like we belonged in a potato field, not on a battlefield. And then there was the job itself. People always underestimated us archers. They thought we were just these low-level soldiers whose job was to, shoot arrows. But being an archer took skill, precision, and nerves of steel. We were the ones who had to stay calm and focused while the battle raged around us. We couldn't afford to panic and miss our target like the big lug with the sword over there. And sure, sometimes we got to hit the bull's eye and send the opposing team's banner tumbling down. But most of the time our arrows flew wide or bounced off our enemies' helmets. That's right, we were the background noise of medieval battles, the guys who showed up, took a few shots, then packed up and headed home. Meanwhile, the knights charged into battle with their swords flashing and their armor gleaming. They were the stars of the show, while we archers were just there to fill in the blanks. And don't even get us started on the credit we received. Whenever we managed to land a hit, the knights would swoop in and take all the glory. Suddenly, they were the ones who landed the killing blow, and we archers were back to being the guys who just showed up and took a few shots. But you know what? We were okay with it. Being an archer in medieval times was hard enough without having to worry about getting credit for it. We were just happy to be alive, even if nobody remembered our name. So if you're ever tempted to say, being an archer in medieval times wasn't all that bad, just remember this. We were the ones who had to put up with stinky nights, bad food, and 0 credit. Now, who's up for a game of tag? Just don't expect me to chase you down. I'm not in the mood for a jog. So, do you think you could handle the pressure of being an archer in medieval times? Or would you rather just watch from the sidelines while someone else does the hard work? Let us know in the comments below. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more epic historical tales. Until next time, remember, don't be a jerk, be a medieval archer.